Welcome back to the Shabbos Treasures series. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and I'm here together with my co-host,
Rabbi Samuel Ross, and we are delighted to be able to share a weekly idea that you can take into your Shabbos and upgrade and beautify immediately. Enjoy. We are dedicating in towards the memory. It should be an aliyah, a race for the neshamas of Tzvi Nachum ben Masha, who is a father and a father-in-law of a couple who are very often with us on the show, and also the grandmother of Jeremy, who is Rachel Bas Yaakov. We should only know simchas together. The joy of Shabbos. And the truth is, we're doing Shabbos treasures because Shabbos is absolutely a treasure. It is our treasure. It is, once you sort of get hooked on it, it's quite phenomenal. It's quite amazing. So I think Gila, just wanted to share something you saw with us today, something that was powerful.
Yes, I read a story. Okay, here goes. So today is Holocaust Memorial Day, and I read a story that I think is chilling and amazing, and I wanted to share it with you all, if you allow me, please. So some of you may have heard, anyone here has heard of Rebbetzin Esther Jungreis?
No.
He was an incredible personality, a Rebbetzin in the States, who was a TV personality and really a legend in her own right. This story her daughter tells of it, and she says her mother was a Holocaust survivor. Her mother went through the Holocaust, and her grandparents were unfortunately killed in the Holocaust. And she says after her parents, Slovachana, who is the daughter who's telling the story, she says that when after her parents moved to the States after the devastation of the Holocaust, and obviously they tried to rebuild their lives. They did. They had a family. They built their community. They were a rabbi and a rebbetzin of a shul, and they worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives after the devastation of the Holocaust. And one day they get a knock on the door. And and someone knocks on the door and says, "Is this the Jungreis family?" And they says, "Yes, they do." And they ask her to come visit them in their house. And they don't know what it is, but they agree. So they make the trek. They lived in New York City. They make the trek to this person's house, and he comes in and he shows them a candlestick. And he says, "I want to tell you the story of this candlestick." He says, before your parents, right, before they knew that they knew that they were going to be taken away to camp, they gave your candles, they gave me the Shabbat candlesticks that you had, and they asked me to keep it for them. And when I did that for them, and unfortunately her parents were killed in the war. And he said it was my mission to take these candlesticks and return them to their rightful heirs. And this was years later. And he said, now I can rest easy and know that they're going back to where they belong, these candlesticks. And Jungreis' daughter tells the story. She says her mother used to light those candles on that candlestick every Shabbat, and she would say, that it's a reminder to us, right? It's a reminder that this candlestick is a reminder to us that she would say to herself and her family, and the truth is, it's to all of us, that we are all a miracle, right? That we are here today, alive after centuries of anti-Semitism, after the devastation of the Holocaust. We're here, we're a miracle, and we're here for a purpose, right? And Shabbos reminds us of what that purpose is, right? As Jews, we have a unique purpose. We have a mission, right? We are connected to God. We have a close connection to God. We're here to do His will in this work. And she would say this every single Friday night as she lit candles on those candlesticks. I mean, you think about it, how crazy is it? How miraculous is it that a candlestick could make its way from Europe, right? Survive the Holocaust and end up in New York in its right family's home. It's unbelievable, the miracle of it. But the truth is, none of us, each of us, is no less a miracle. That we are here today, we are a miracle, and we are here for a purpose. And every Shabbat, that reminds us of what our purpose here is that we are connected to God. We are here to do His will in this world, and that's what we remember on Shabbat. And it's interesting actually, because this week's parasha is called Parasha Mishpatim. I have to tell you a cute story. My 4-year-old comes home and he tells me, I said it's amazing how much they learn. He's only 3. And I asked him, like, what's it called? And he couldn't even pronounce it. And then I said, what's it about, this week's Torah portion? And he starts telling me, because what is Mishpatim? It's loads and loads and loads of different laws. But it starts with an interesting law, and that is the law of a Jew. It's called an Eved Ivri, like a Jewish servant, which is the laws of it is a fascinating, but for another conversation. And we're asked that. So the question obviously arises is why? We just spoke about why does it come here? We just spoke about the Jews getting the Torah. Why is it brought here? And the answer that Rabbi Ross showed it to me earlier is amazing. And again, it brings back this story to life to us again. It says, because the Eved Ivri, right, the Jewish slave, it has a connection to the idea that we're here to creation and to Shabbos, right? The fact that we are here on every Shabbos, we commemorate that God's created the world. He's our creator. We have that relationship with him, and that's why it was so important that it was put right there, right in the beginning. It was interrupted so that we can take note of it. And I think it just reminds us, we're here to talk about Shabbat. We can remember that story about Rebbe Youngberson telling her children, it's a miracle. We're a miracle. And every Shabbat we can remember that the fact that we are here, Jewish today, connected today, is a miracle. Remember that every Shabbat is a perfect opportunity for us to remember that.
Wow, what a beautiful idea. And I'm just thinking it's so ironic. Both the men and the ladies this week, the classes that we did, mine on Monday night and then Gillis on Tuesday and Wednesday night, was dealing with how the Jewish people are above muzzle. When the Jewish people, we're not held by normal laws. We're a miracle. And that's such a beautiful story that you told, Gilla. And it's so chilling, but it's, if we were to ourselves, even once in a while, share such a story at our own Friday night table to our own families, to ourselves, not to mention our children, about how we're above muzzle, we're above, as a people, we're above nature. Anything is possible. What a beautiful, beautiful story, Gilla. Thank you so much for sharing. So we just wanted to really enhance the treasure that we're learning and to add to it a little bit. With that said and done, we now move into week 14, which is the law of gathering. So the last 3 weeks, we've been dealing with various different things that are going on in the field, from smoothing out the ground to detaching things from the ground. This week, we're dealing with gathering. So to give you 2 or 3 different examples of things we're going to look at. Okay, and they're not mystical stories of candlesticks. We're going to be discussing picking up apples from the garden. And I think some of you asked me about this last week. Is it okay to go into your garden and to pick up some apples? Let's look at that question just for a minute. Based on the knowledge that we have, what do we think?
Yes, if they didn't fall on Shabbat.
Okay, so Hayden has got an incredible memory. And he remembers that we saw last week that once you've fallen on Shabbat, you're in trouble, you can't. What we're going to see tonight under the laws of gathering is, yes, sometimes, even if they fell yesterday or the day before, only under some circumstances. And we're going to contrast that with peanuts. We're going to see in a couple of minutes that apples in the garden, which fell yesterday on Friday, is sometimes okay and sometimes not okay. But peanuts that have fallen in our kitchen may have a different set of rules. So with no further ado, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to, and in terms of melacha, in terms of the 39 categories, this is of the shorter one. It's a very, very short one tonight. So we're just going to, sort of define it in a couple of examples, a couple of exceptions. Gilla, maybe you would like to define for us exactly what this melacha, this work of gathering is, which is the 4th of.
I would like nothing more. Thank you for asking me. Okay, so what is it? It's the collecting and combining of scattered fruits, produce, or any other substance that grows from the ground. And it applies even to two different types of even to fruits, even of different types of varieties. So does anyone want to sum that up in layman's terms as a challenge for you?
No.
So that being the case, I am going to try and say it
Darren, we
again.
knew you could rely on
That's
you.
actually a very bad idea because Ginner is far more articulate than I am. Okay, so again, what do they used to do? They used to cut the stalks of the produce, and then they picture it. You've got your apples, you've got your twigs, you've got your wood. They're out there in the whatever. And now what are you doing? You are gathering them together and bringing them in. That is what we're discussing tonight. That's the issue. It's gathering together bits of fruits, bits of substances that grow from the ground. Anything you could think of that grows from the ground, well, almost anything. But let's just for our purpose say anything that grows from the ground. Once it's scattered and you pick it up, you have done the melacha of ma'amar, which is the work of gathering. We'll see examples in a couple of minutes, but are we all clear with the concept? Bev, I saw your hand up.
I was messing with my hair.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Dangerous.
You know, Gillian, maybe let's give an example or two, and then we'll come back to this. Again, we're gathering
Okay,
things
so
in.
let me ask, okay, so let's say you have Hayden's example of a bucket of apples. For whatever reason, you have apples that are fallen outside, whether they're from a tree or whether you just, were bringing a bag of shopping in on Thursday or Friday, and it split all over the place, and you find a few loose on the floor on Shabbos outside.
Again, we're talking outside, right?
Outside in your garden, on your lawn. Would you be allowed to pick them up? Would you be allowed to gather them?
Now that we've told you that gathering of produce from the ground where it grew is an issue.
No, I don't think you will be able to.
Okay, good. So I think we got the concept. Gilly, you have explained it excellently. You are as expert in everything.
Well, we'll leave it at
And
that.
I thought you were.
We won't ask Darren.
So correct. So again, essentially, we're going to see some exceptions soon on how to do it and when you can do it. But essentially, you're correct. You cannot go out to your garden and collect scattered fruits or things like that and bring them in.
Oh, another question. Can we rake leaves on Shabbos?
Oh, why do I want to do that? Am I trying to get
No, you can't.
Maddie says no.
Correct. It's the same thing again, because again, where's it coming from? It's something that grows from the ground. You can't gather it together. I'm going to give you one more example, but this is an unusual one. If the place that you gather it together is normally indoors, then it would apply indoors. So let me give you the classical example, which is stringing figs together. Figs may come from outdoors, but when they string it together, they do it indoors. Therefore, you couldn't string figs together. That would be the equivalent. It's almost always outdoors, but when the process happens indoors and you're putting them together, then the issue is even indoors. But that doesn't accept that. That is like almost like something that may happen once in a while. The basic concept is, and the examples are, you've got your raking the leaves, you've got your bringing in your apples. You cannot bring them in. You cannot collect them together and bring them in.
What if somebody comes to your house and walks a load of leaves in? Can you not brush them up on Shabbos?
Okay, so you're asking a good question. In a minute, Maddie, actually about 2 minutes, see the exceptions to the rules. And you're going to see that indoors, it may well be a different situation. We're talking specifically outdoors. But we'll come back to your question in about a minute.
Okay.
So let's go back to Hayden's example of the apple. So this is what you are allowed to do. You can pick up one fruit at a time and take it inside. The melacha, the work of gathering, only applies to 2 at a time, even of different varieties.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Because it said collecting them together. So if you don't collect them together and you just do one at a time, is that okay?
One at a time, even though you're going to have 50 inside, it's not a problem. Again, if they fell off the tree on Shabbos, you're no good anyway. But if you know they fell off the tree yesterday, then you can take in one at a time. Okay, because if they fell off on Shabbos, they're actually muktza, you couldn't even touch them. Now, next question. We're going to tell you that there are 4 exceptions. Again, we're telling you that you can't go to the natural habitat, which is outside, where things are from the ground or from the tree and have fallen off, and gather them together. There are 4 exceptions where basically you could. So, Gila, do you want to do the first one?
Yes, it has to be something that grows from the ground. So, for example, apples, fruit, etc., fall under that. Anything that's not grown from the ground. So, for example, if you have clothes, or if you have cutlery or whatever like that, that you could gather together.
Okay, so yeah, there wouldn't be any problem of, your cutlery falls on the floor, even if it's outdoors, of picking it up. It has to be earth grown. What I want to know is, Gila, important question, I think. What about money? Because doesn't money grow on trees? Stephen!
I guess you wouldn't be able to then on Shabbos.
How you doing, Stephen? What about money? Money grows on trees. We all know that, right? Come on, you know that money grows on trees. So I wonder how you do all that. Anyway, the point is the first exception is it has to be earth grown. So anything that's not grown from the earth, you can gather up. So Stephen, we're discussing this. It's a very short melacha this week. It's one of gathering. You can't gather in fruit from outside or vegetation from outside, even if it's not muktza. But there has to be earth grown. The second exception is it has to be for it to be a problem, it has to be gathered in its place of growth. Meaning, let's give you an example.
So if my fruit bowl falls on the floor and scatters all over the floor inside, can I gather it up?
Yes, in the house, yes.
Right, because it grows outside. Okay, now our third one, regathering. So again, gathering is a problem. But what about if it already got gathered yesterday? And now some child comes along and spills, my tomatoes all over the floor of the garden. So that would be okay because it's regathering. It's only gathering that's a problem. Regathering is not. And finally, Gila?
And it has to be in its original state. Okay, so wooden toys, clothing, etc., which is originally from the ground, but it's been manufactured, processed, etc., would not be a problem.
Okay, so
can I ask a question? How do you know if it's regathering or just gathering?
Because you would have to know. You would have to know that.
Yeah, but Gila could have collected the tomatoes, and then you could have gone inside and come out and not known whether they were collected or recollected.
Right.
No?
So I'm going to assume that I'm gathering it. So then it's a problem.
So unless you know that it's being gathered beforehand, you have to assume that it's not gathered.
Because again, thoughts that your nice cotton shirt or a wooden toy, right? Some of the kids have got wooden toys. Wood is from the ground, as far as I know. You may have thought it's a problem. It's not a problem because it's not in its original state. So again, I want to sum up what we've said. We've said that you go outside to your garden and you start picking up fruit or twigs or things like that, even if they're not muktza, they didn't fall off the tree today, right? You can't do that. So how can you do it? So either you take one at a time, as long as it fell off yesterday, or there are 4 other exceptions. One is when it's earth grown. Sorry, one is when it's not earth grown, right? If it's like cutlery is okay. The second one is it must be gathered in its place of growth. So if it's inside the house, like peanuts are falling on the floor, okay? Regathering is okay. It's only gathering is the problem. And it must be in their original state. So wooden toys or cotton shirts you could gather. And last but definitely not least, unless we've got any questions, and it's good to have Stephen with us. So Stephen, at the beginning, we looked at yet another reason, another element. Gila gave a really beautiful story of why we keep Shabbos. It's not just that, that we're learning the laws. Gila had a really story. Gila, maybe in 30 seconds, you want to sum up the point?
He was here at the beginning. He was just eating his dinner on the other side of the room. He was listening.
Fantastic. Just to close up, maybe in 30 or 60 seconds, just give over a summation of the beautiful story and message that we should all share with our kids tomorrow night, please God, at our Shabbos meetings.
we're a miracle. We really, really are. The fact that it's a topic for a whole nother discussion, but the fact that any Jew is around today is a miracle. And we think, okay, I'm Jewish, whatever, but we're here. It's unbelievable that we're here. The miraculous nature of the Jewish people shows us that we're here for a very, very strong, clear purpose. And Shabbos is a time where we connect to that purpose. We connect to God, we connect to our spirituality, we connect to our family, we connect to ourselves. And it's just an opportunity to remember the miraculous nature of ourselves as Jews.
So beautifully put. And again, remember, it actually connects with this week's parasha, that the Eved Izri, that the Jewish slave, that there's a connection, and particularly that it speaks about how in 7 years he gets set free. So the idea of 7, it reminds us of that the world was created, 6 days Hashem rested on the 7th day, and that's why it's put there. Any law could have been put there. No, because it's a law that connects with Shabbos. Anything that connects with Shabbos. Because Shabbos is the root of the foundation of all of our belief. And as Gila said so elegantly, so beautifully, we are a miracle. Share that with yourself. Share that with your kids. Treasure our religion. Treasure Shabbos. Shabbos is the root. It's all about Shabbos. And we are a miracle.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear if this will help you make more confident choices. You can get in touch with me on Instagram. It's Gila Ross. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you and have a wonderful day.